to tell people that I'm Mexican, but I also feel like I can't because I have to assimilate into American culture and American life.
Discussing, but belonging is ever changing. Not only is it affected by the switches and changes, modifications in different immigration law and just like the context that you're in, but it means something different for a different person. Every time there's scripts that must be followed, but depending on the context you're in, depending on where you find yourself in, whether that may be a school space, a government space, or other official institutions, what belonging means will change, and we have to look at it as something that is ever changing and not as a static system.
Que siempre tenemos que hacer honor a quien nos permite crecer y educarnos y alimentarnos y ver nuestras dos clases de vida, la que la tierra nos brinda y la que nosotros como seres humanos podemos brindarles a otras personas.
Then I might as well, suck it up sometimes and really show up for the people who don't have those privileges. When I have a status, I'm a resident in this country, so why should I rest when I know that other people, I work a lot with DACA recipients or undocumented people. I know every day that they could just be walking on and be deported. Their life here, as they know it, could be over. So
this gathering really, as I mentioned, rose in response to the rise of anti-Asian violence, and in particular after the Atlanta shootings that really just shocked the nation and the world, and certainly affected us three as co-organizers. We wanted to know what is a way that we can really respond to this, to meet the magnitude of the pain and the suffering and the sense of isolation and fear that so many of us, particularly in the Asian American community, feel, and how can we do this in a way that really centers Asian American Buddhist voices, which presently and also historically have so often been marginalized.
It's one thing to kind of work with clients or work with care seekers, but it's another thing to work towards the causes and conditions that are causing the suffering to begin with. Yeah. And to me, that's the work of social justice.
I feel like Asian Buddhism as a category among Westerners as this separate thing that is so fundamentally different from their way of doing things. It's really just a construction that allows them to privilege their ideology.
I want to begin just acknowledging that my greatest intention is to create the kinds of community spaces where folks feel comfortable meeting their access needs. And access needs are something that we all have.
But he used the word crazy. We don't use that word, so I got a dictionary, and we use extremely enthusiastic. And that is what happens with disabled folks and with the disability community, is that people keep trying to make them fit into this world when that is not how it works for the community.
Often I have gotten the question of, why are you deaf? How did you become deaf? When did you become deaf? And I should say that I actually have a very complicated relationship with this particular question, because for a long time, I used to answer it. And at this point, I don't need to answer it. I owe nobody, and no person with any kind of a disability owes anybody an explanation of why they're disabled, how they became disabled, what's the reason they're disabled. And yes, that was a question that for a long time, individuals had a tremendous fascination with. Like, when were you diagnosed as being deaf? Or how did you become deaf? Why are you deaf? And what assistive devices do you use? And I would answer it, because at the time it was something that I took as interest in me, when at the end of the day, interest in me should not have to be interest in and ultimately a justification of my explaining to you why I am entitled to calling myself or identifying myself as either being disabled or being deaf or both.